Good evening. I hope that you are doing well and welcome on our next lecture. So sorry for a bit delay, but yeah, we actually, as planned, invited a couple of students, a couple of universities at Tacville, so we expect them to join us a bit later. So let me start the conversation and the presentation. So, and today we have with you a really important topic, so-called customer development methodology. Um, so I hope that you can see my screen. Otherwise, I would like to ask my colleague to help me with. So today we are going to go through the basics of customer development. It's really important methodology which we are using in our programs and which we are using as startup trackers. Why startup dies? Startups die. You know that most probably you heard about that. That 9 out of 10 startups usually don't achieve the expected results. The statistic is not so bad actually, because out of 10, actually only 5 dies. And 1, 2 startups from these 10 are near the break-even point. Another 1, 2 startups, and they are doing some profit, some revenue, and let's say 1, maximum 2 out of 10 usually make X10 return of investments, which usually investors are looking for. So that's why that's why it's really important to understand how to develop your project in such conditions. You also have to keep in mind that as we discussed on the first lecture, that startups, it's about invention. That's about a big field of uncertainty in front of us as founders. So that's why, again, it's pretty clear why not so many startups achieve great results. But as I mentioned, there are some methodologies which can help you to go through. If we use Google main reasons why startups fail, you can most probably find different, let's say, graphs, different pictures, but more or less top 3 reasons are pretty the same. So, and today for us, what's important is to take a look on the first reason. So product or service and the market. So why you failed? They asked 100 founders because we develop product or service the market doesn't need. So the other, let's say, approach to this point is, okay, we didn't find the relevant customer. So, and you see that more than 40% of people, of founders, actually answer that, okay, the market, the client is the crucial thing. And to solve this point, to solve this issue, so we can use product development methodology. But if you think how usually, let's say, first time teams, how they usually start, they start with product development. Actually, so product development begins from development of the product, and so we face the situation that this product actually no one needs. There are 2 basic, not basic, I would say, big names in the startup world. The first one is Eric Rice with Lean startup. The second one is Steve Blank with customer development methodology. So actually, Steve Blank should be the first one because he was a teacher, a professor of Eric Rice, and the story behind was that Eric Rice addressed to Steve Blank asking, looking for investments, and Steve Blank agreed to invest into their startup only if Eric Rice will join to his university course. So that's why you most probably heard about Lean Startup. So this approach is based actually on the ideas of customer development of Steve Blank. So that's why. So it's two pieces of the two parts of one big tool, story, framework, whatever. So if you are talking about customer development, what does it mean? Customer development is a client-oriented approach to business creation. So according to this concept, the product must solve the pain, the issue, the challenge of the specific client segment. So first we identify the client segment, then brainstorm about problems which this specific client segments has. Then we confirm the problem with them, and only after um, several steps we start to develop the product itself. It's important to understand also one of the basics of customer development is that while the team is not communicating with the client, while they did not get the confirmation of their ideas from the market, confirmation by money, by I don't know, interviews, by numbers, let's say, so they collectively hallucinate about the needs, functions, and availability of the client and the needs, let's say, of the product on the market. So to avoid these hallucinations, we again use customer development methodology. So here on the screen, you actually can see this pretty simple, in the meantime, very valuable approach. So when we start, let's say, startup, when we launch a startup, so usually early stage teams with not so much experience, and I was also there on this place. So they think, okay, we have to create a company. We have to register a legal entity. We have to make business cards, maybe to rent an office. So that's what we would like to do as a business. So it's totally wrong. It requires a lot of expenses from the very beginning, while actually you don't really understand if there is a business, there is an opportunity, there are money on the market that you want to get. So that's why we have to go through 4 big steps, and inside these big steps there are also a couple of smaller steps which we can't avoid actually. So first step is customer discovery. It's a stage where the startup try to understand how actually the customer, the client segment, live without their solution, what kind of problems they have, if they are really looking for any solutions. So here, actually, the discovery is pretty good word for that. So we try to discover, again, to make a research of how the client segments exist right now. The final step on this big step is actually to confirm problem solution fit. So I will touch a bit later what does it mean. Nevertheless, only after we got this problem solution fit, we can go to the next stage, so-called customer validation. So as you see from these reports, even though we confirm some assumptions, some ideas on the previous stage, we still need to validate what we found. Why it is so? Because on the previous stage, on the customer discovery, it can happen that, okay, you made a landing page, you identified some customer segment, and for example, you start to sell your product through the landing page. It can happen that you will get some sales, you will get some money out of that,
But the core question is actually for you as startups, as founders, is to create this automated way of generating leads, customers, contracts, and the way of generating money. So on the customer validation stage, we try to find product market fit. That actually means that we try to find, if you remember, what does it mean startup? So we try to find repeatable, scalable business model which we can use in a way where we can predict the result, the financial result, the sales result, and so on. So the main goal here on customer validation is actually to prove that we can make a manageable sales, not some occasional sales, but manageable. We clearly understand which customer, where we can find, how much it costs for us, what is the conversion rate on each stage. So when we have a client on the website, so what's the conversion rate to the applications, what is the conversion rate from applications to the real contract, and so on. So again, here we create a manageable story which we can predict. When we and that's more or less, let's say, help us to understand if we found this product market fit. What is also important to understand on this level, on this stage, is to be sure that the market where our client segment is, and the client segment itself is big enough for us to get some part from competitors, some part market share, some part of the share of the market from competitors, and if we can actually grow, I don't know, multinational, international companies. What is important characteristic of the startup is how fast this startup is growing. So, and if you have a small market, and there are some competitive solutions which already solve the pain of your customer segments. Otherwise, so how these client segments are living. So if there are some competitors, if the market is small, there is a pretty low chance that you will create this so-called hockey stick graph of sales. So that's why for you it's important on this stage to understand if the market is big enough, if competition is small enough, if the market is worldwide. What also is important, and why it's important to understand that, because as I mentioned, if you remember this, 9 out of 10, so only one startup out of 10 will bring enough return of investments for investor. That means actually that to cover the losses of the investor, you need, or investor need, to identify this unicorn, this winner, who actually will bring him X10 times more than he invested. So, and of course, you can't have an evaluation of the company 10 times bigger than on the stage where you got investments in case you operate on the small market. Yeah, you always have to keep in mind how big, if you promise to the investor X10 of the evaluation of the company, and actually it's bigger number than the market itself in total, so there is actually a problem. So coming back to our talk, when we actually found the product market fit, then we can actually go to the next stage, to the scale, to the customer creation. So where we already can automate some processes, we can scale our sales activities to other countries or inside the country. So it should become already more close to the company. So here already it makes sense to register a legal entity, of course, to hire people because you have already some money. So after you create on this stage a sustainable company on the local market, then we can think about scaling of the organization on the international level. So here we can expand to other countries, we can go to US market, to Chinese market, whatever, so we can become international. And we see it's logical step-by-step approach how not to create something really big with a lot of investments, but without the need of the market. So we first identify the need in the market, and then only we go further. So here you can see four, let's say, basics of the customer development postulates, so-called. So first, the client is at the center of everything. So the client has some problems, pains, needs, which we need to find and or to confirm through the testing of our hypothesis. So why here? And or because it can be different approach. We first, for example, have an idea of the technology of the product, then we identify the customer segment, we brainstorm about their pains, and then go to them to confirm. That approach is okay. We understand that we would like to, I don't know, deal in the field of power tech or health tech, whatever. We understand that we want to deal with, I don't know, children, and then we try to understand, okay, which problems in the field of, I don't know, health the specific customer segment has problems. So nevertheless, clients are first. Second point, also it's important to understand, and for early stage startups, it's usually an issue. But actually, again, it's a basic, it's a milestone which you have just to keep in mind and always think about that. Everything is just an assumption until you confirm it. So there is no obvious facts unless you get a feedback from the market. So I don't know, solution doesn't work. This is, let's say, again, basic unless we confirm that it really works. Client doesn't have a pain, even we think everyone has this pain. No, unless we talk to the client, we've got this confirmation, it is not confirmed. So, and why it's important? Because you can, I think, Google and find a lot of presentations where you will see the description of the pain on the first pages, and for example, I know the client has this pain, blah blah blah, in the field of banking, whatever, and there's no numbers. So what does it mean? That means that okay, maybe the startup didn't do their homework, because it's just without numbers. It's just their opinion. If they didn't confirm it through even questionnaire, so it's just their opinion. So what we have? Me, for example, as investor, I have my opinion. You as a startup have your opinion, and if our opinions doesn't meet each other, that means so there's no deal. That's why, again, to avoid that, we always have to play with numbers to get these numbers and to confirm our opinions, our assumptions via, again, several tools which we will touch later on. Third point is, as we already mentioned, the development of the, let's say, company, the startup, proceeds through 4 steps: discovery, validation, creation, building. We want to spend more time on that. And also what's important, not to miss, is there is no facts in the office or at home, depends on the founders. So what does it mean? It means that even though you make a research via Google, via, I don't know, AdWords, via whatever, unless you go and talk to the customer, there is still a high risk that it's only your interpretation of numbers which you found. So only the market can answer you clearly
So what is the situation? And that means that you have to talk to the real customer, which you think who you think is the best fit for you for your, let's say, idea. And while you do this interview, you got usually a lot of insights. You can dig into several topics which you didn't think before. You can confirm your assumptions. You can understand how these people are usually behaving, living without, again, your great solution. So that's why uh, from the level of my experience, I really advise you uh, always always talk to the customer, not to avoid that. And I read an article 2 years ago that, for example, the founder of Airbnb, for example, even after 1 year of the launching of their platform, and if you remember, they had, I don't know, 3 or 5 versions of their platform. So after they found this successful version, this guy, this founder, already with international business, international team, he spent his time talking to the clients and partners of his platform, requesting a feedback, what should be improved, what doesn't work, and so on and so on. And in this article, he actually told the story that one of the customers actually presented him the whole book of written adjustments for the platform, for the business model, and actually they implemented. Um, I don't know how many percentage, but he told that quite a lot of these comments they used. So that's like an example for you that that it's always important to talk to the customer. I have another story from my traction practice. For example, there was a company with already developed business. They have already some sales for a couple of years, good turnover, and they came and so they were advised to make a customer development. So to talk to their customers, even though they have this good numbers of the sales. And they started to talk to their customers. They identified that actually moms, mothers with kids, they're using their solution in a different way, not in a way that this specific founders team designed, created the product, and they thought they solved some pain, but in the other thing, in the other direction. And based on this, let's say, interviews, they actually launched another business direction and also get more customers, more revenue, and the business was growing. So just to show you that customer development methodology and talking to customers, it's not only the the task for early stage startups. It's also the task for more advanced, mature startups. Even in corporates, I was working at Gazprom Neft, and so they have an innovation department, and even though such big corporate, they use this customer development methodology. They make an interviews with employees inside the company to validate the problem and the solution. So even in big corporates, it is used and bring results. Just to remind you, yes, about, let's say, our goals on each stage. So on the customer discovery, for us, it's important to identify problem solution fit. So if we got the problem that makes sense to deal with. So on the second stage, on the customer validation, we have to find product market fit. Is there a product that fits people? And the deeper question, if we can launch manageable sales which can grow. And then the scale, of course, the core question here, the core goal is to understand how to accelerate development of the company, of sales, of process, and so on. If so, we are talking about early stage startups. If you remember this approach, so we usually start from the customer discovery. We have to find problem solution. How it is usually can be organized. I already touched several times at this point, but let me repeat. So first we brainstorm assumptions about, okay, first we brainstorm about target audience. Basically, when we have, I don't know, some acceleration program, we have already some startups with already developed MVP. That's great, but usually this is again the illustration of this approach when we develop a product which no one needs. So, and that's why we usually start working with the startups, helping them to find the answer. Okay, who are your target audience? Who are your clients? So we need to brainstorm 3, but 5 client segments. Then we have to go to the brainstorming of about the problems of this specific target audience. So problems should be confirmed, as we already discussed several times. So there are several ways, but again, I would like to highlight that problem interviews is the most efficient tool, especially when you're just starting to develop your project. Because again, it can happen that you want to solve one problem, but actually the customer doesn't have this problem, or they have another problem. And this insight you can use to pivot, to change an idea, and to launch another startup. Why not? So then after we confirm a problem, and basically we also push to confirm the value, because it's important knowledge to understand what is valuable for your client. If it's mother, for example, with a kid, that means that most probably the security of the family is her value. So, and you have first to confirm this idea with the customer, but then you will use this knowledge in your marketing campaign because you will launch the advertising, and you will write there a message. So we know that for you is important security of your family. We have a solution. So, and then it's create a trigger. Yeah, it's influence on the trigger, and the client actually go through your advertising, because so it's important for him or for her. They can't ignore it. So that's why again to identify the value, to confirm the value, is also important to make on this stage. Then we can brainstorm, we can create a list of needs and requirements for the product. So we can, again, there is a logic here, so you have to understand it. So we are not creating requirements to the product just based on our ideas. The logic here is there's a customer, we know about how these people are living. We know about their problems and values. And actually our solution has to pack all this knowledge. So again, it's not some isolated ideas, it's based on the previous steps. Then after creating this, say, list, we can go to the creating of MVP. There are several approaches to the MVP, so-called minimum viable product, minimum viable product. So from my perspective, and what we use, for example, in our acceleration program, is that on customer discovery stage, MVP, it's the fastest and the cheapest way to confirm your idea about the solution. So on the customer discovery stage here, you see on the left side, you don't need already to create a solution. You can, if it will I don't know, spend 2 weeks, months, 1 month is the maximum.
But what's important here, and this is a part of lean startup methodology, we have to communicate with the market as fast as is possible. So if it will be simpler and faster just to make a landing page for free and to talk to the customer and to get their feedback, we have to go to this way. We don't need again to spend 6 months on development of the project. I know startuppers, and actually it's my close friend, but so still he was working on his project 2 years, developing the product. And at the end of the second year, he already afraid to talk to the market because he spent so much time invested in the development of the product itself that yeah, you can't just understand that nobody needs that, and it creates fears, and such products never appear on the market. So to avoid that, use the fastest and cheapest way to confirm the hypothesis of the solution. And then we have to, let's say, test this MVP if so the user see the value in this solution, and this customer discovery stage usually end up by the confirmation from the market that someone is ready to make commitments, financial commitments, on dealing with your product. What does it mean? For example, you launch an MVP, you launch a landing page, and you start working with your client segments. Then you have to share the landing page with your customer segment to understand if there are applications from this website. If there is a high number of applications, that's already a great sign. If there is no applications from the website, that's a bad sign. And maybe you didn't pack well paint solution and values. Maybe you didn't identify really what are pains of the customer. So initially on this stage, it will be, let's say, more or less enough to get applications to confirm the interest of the solution. Better if you already can get financial commitment. That means that people don't just sending and applying through the website, but they already can, for example, prepay your solution to you. So that actually confirm if they're serious or not, because you will identify that it can happen. People are doing, great solution. We are looking for it for such solution the entire life. It is really needed on the market. But then when you ask them, okay, you like the solution, let's make a contract. So how are you ready to pay? Then you will understand that no, they are not ready to pay, and that's only words to support you. So that's why financial commitments from the customer segments is the strongest way to confirm that you found problem solution fit. On this stage, we usually, as I mentioned, use interviews, and so there are two types of the interview, which you can use. Two types of the interview which you commonly use on the stage. So it's a problem interview and it's a solution interview. So as you can guess, problem interview we are using to confirm the problem. Solution interview we are using to confirm the solution. It's not only words, it's actually methodologies, which you will discover on the next session next week. We invited a serial entrepreneur with a company of 20 million euros annual turnover and international business from UK to China. So this guy will share with you how they actually went from with one of his startup through the problem interviews, in defining and validating the problem. Just to Just to mention here, important thing is that problem interview, again, it's a methodology. You have to create a script using a specific approach. I already can advise you the book called Mom's Test, and this is basic book, 140 pages. You will spend 2 hours, maybe 3 hours on the weekend to read it, but actually you will clearly understand these basics, which so you have to follow when you start creating the script of the interview and when you start talking to the customer. Then, of course, it's a matter of practice, but again, basics of methodology you will cover. So, Mom Test is very. I really advise you to read it as soon as possible. So, what is important for us to understand here? The problem interview is actually to either a problem, how much does it hurt our client, and how much does it cost the client. Of course, it's not all questions, but it's important not to skip this and to understand if client really emotionally have some confirmation of the problem. So how much does it hurt? And if if we can identify how much client lose here of his money, even though he lose the time, so we can recalculate it in money. Why it's important for us to understand this information on this stage? Because we will use this information when we will formulate the price level of our future solution. What's also important, it's like the core thing of the problem interview, and also please keep it in mind, is that via the problem interview, we try to explore, to understand the past of our customer. So not the opinion about our project, product, whatever, not the opinion about whatever. We doesn't care about. We don't care about opinions. What we care about is facts, and facts. That means that it already happened in the past, and so it's an experience of our customer, which he can share with us. So again, the common mistake of early stage startups and teams is again to talk theoretically about some processes, some problems, whatever. It doesn't matter for us. We need to focus on past, on facts. The second tool of interviews is solution interview. Here we have more space to talk to the customer. We need to get a feedback. What is his opinion, her opinion about our solution? What should be improved if this solution really solve the pain and the need of the customer. Shortly we will touch product market fit again. So we are not planning that you will go through it through this program. So we'll mainly focus on the problem solution fit with you. But to understand what will be next steps after you confirm problem solution fit, so then you try to explore what kind of marketing, let's say, tools, channels you can use to, and as I mentioned, to make a manageable sales. So we actually brainstorm growth hypothesis about channels, about possible conversion, return or retention, virality, whatever. So we try to understand, let's say, our assumption about, let's say, the marketing model which we will bring to the market. Then we test it, so we confirm, so and we face with the reality, which channels, which value proposition we can is more efficient here. What is our conversion rate, etc., etc. And as you see on the screen here, we actually already create a minimal functional product. What does it mean? It means that we can provide the whole customer journey from onboarding of the client through providing a service or providing our product to the customer, and then post-sales service, let's say, how we get money from the customer if we have to provide some additional service after the deal was happened. So here on this stage, we create this MVP. It's already pretty close to the real company, to the real, let's say, startup company. And what's important here, again, we already see the real numbers from the market, the real conversion rate, and that help us to calculate the unit economic of the project. So this unit economic, we will also have some lectures later via this program. So what's important here is to understand that customer acquisition cost, so cost of attracting the customer, is lower than the customer bring you the money, the amount of money which customer bring you. Bring you. So so-called this SaaS, customer acquisition cost, should be less than LTV, lifetime value of the customer. So again, we will touch this later on, but this is the core criteria for of this difference, and I mean positive difference. So that means that okay, it's the product is efficient enough at least to make a due diligence if it makes sense to invest a lot. So if the difference is negative, then not any investor will invest, because it's show them that you will never find a break-even point. This HADI cycles, you already saw it on our first lecture, I believe. So the idea behind is that we have to use scientific approach. So through all these points, through all these steps, customer discovery, validation, to find problem solution fit, whatever. So we have to go through the HADI cycles. So we have some ideas, some assumptions, how the world looks like. Then we need to generate some actions to confirm that. What's important on the next stage, on the same stage, to collect data and then to analyze it to understand if we confirm our initial hypothesis or not. So this is a scientific approach, came from scientific research world to startup, because as you remember, startups is about inventions, it's about a huge field of uncertainty in front of us. Let's startup trackers, and each of university has their own tracker. I hope that you already met them. We have several tools to help you to go through to develop your project. So here on the screen you see a part of traction map, which cover customer discovery stage, and this is actually step-by-step plan how to develop your project and to reach a success. As you see here, there are these steps which already discussed with you: client segments, pain and problems, or values, to confirm the problem, to create an MVP, to confirm the solution, and to make first sales. I would stop here, I think, and yeah. So we'll be happy to answer your questions, and hope that you
you get a chance to understand some things about customer development methodology. So please let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, there is some time lag. Okay, nevertheless, it was let's say introduction to customer discovery to to customer development. The next lecture you will have about problem customer development. So touching the problem side, touching problem interview side, and then the week after that we will have customer development in a solution side topic. So yeah, in case you have any questions, please use a chat on Telegram. Otherwise, I would like to thank you, wish you good luck, take care, and see you on the next lectures.